Hi, this is Nedior, and this is my card template for GameSalad. To start out, it's a basic card template that allows you to build multiple decks with very simple interface using tables and basic graphics. At the bottom we have a deck. Clicking on the deck allows us to pick cards. You can grab the cards, move them around, flip them over. You can deal multiple cards. Each card will come to the top as you click it, allowing you to move the cards one on top of the other, and then they'll fall into place. Once you're done dealing the cards, the deck is actually aware of how many are in it, and it can be reused, reshuffled, or redone as many times as you need. What makes the template unique is that you can reuse this to load multiple different decks and keep the same basic code. Let me show you how that's done. Okay, so we're in the card template, and I'm going to show you how you can quickly add your custom deck of cards using this. The first step we need to do is make a few modifications to our tables. I'm going to start by going to the card master list and adding the new cards, each individual unique card that I need, to this list. These can be done by simply adding rows and editing them, or if you choose, you can use a program to create and import your list. In this case, I'm going to save myself some typing and import it from a list I edited in Excel. So I'm going to go ahead and say import, open that file, import again, and you can see I've pulled in some new card names and many different attributes. If you have multiple attributes or different types of attributes, you can add as many as you like to this table and keep track of them in one neat, clean place. The next step I'm going to do is go and add an additional table to represent my deck. You can name this anything you like. I'm going to name it deck table and then give it a name of a deck. In this case, 6D. Just like before, I can either edit the records myself or import. Again, I'm going to save some typing time and import. And in this case, I'm simply adding the card ID and the card name. And you can put as many copies of each card as you want in the deck. So if you had 4 or 5 of the same card, this is the table where you would add them. Now that I have the cards in the deck, I have one last table to edit, and that's to say I have a new deck. Going to the deck info table, I'm going to add a new row. I'm going to give the deck an ID, in this case 1, a deck name. We'll call it 6th Dimension. The image for the back of the card, in this case, it'll be 6th D back. And you could also have a separate image that makes a deck look like a stack. In this case, I'm just going to use the background, 6th D back. The number of cards that are in my deck when I start, 25. I'll use the same size card, but I could change it if I wanted to. And I'm going to set it so that when my deck deals these cards, they're going to be dealt face up. This can be changed throughout the course of the game, so you can have decks that deal face up or face down, or change during the game. Now that I have my decks loaded into the tables, I'm going to need the images for those cards. So I'm going to go to my images library, go grab the images for a deck of cards, including your back. I'm going to drop those into the table so we have them imported. Finally, we're going to make a minor modification to the generic deck. So I'm going to open up that actor. And as you can see, we have a nice simple set of rules, well documented. And I'm going to go down to the only place I need to make a change, which is actually documented in the title. And I'm going to have a choice on the deck index. This is done due to the fact that tables cannot be managed by variables, so I have to have a separate set of entries for each table. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and add deck 1. I'm going to set the name of the deck, 6D, just so I can keep track of it. The index is 1, and I only have one variable I need to change. Instead of being the generic deck, I'm going to go ahead and point to that new deck that I just added, 6D. I also want to be able to remove the card whenever everything's dealt, so I'm going to pick the same table here. Now that I've modified the deck, I'm going to turn that on and go back to my scene and start placing the deck into the game. So I go to the scene. I'm going to drag a copy of my deck into the scene. I'm going to go ahead and put a new background image on it, so it has my 6th dimension background. And then I'm going to make a couple of modifications to the actual deck. The first is just to change its name, deck.6D, so I can keep track of it in my scene. Secondly, if I had changed the size of the card, I would want to make sure I change that. In this case, I kept it as the default size. And finally, I want to set it to the the index that I used in my deck info. Go ahead and set that value. After I've set these values, the last setting I need to change is in my scene. I want to make sure that these cards do not fall above all the other cards in the scene. So I'm going to drag that deck that I just added down to the background, keeping the generic card above. To use the scene, I do not need to add any more generic cards above. It will manage those for me, and I do not need to drag any cards into the scene. They will be generated as the deck is used. So the final step is to try my deck. Press play, and I can now deal the cards from the deck. Go ahead and enlarge that so you can see it a little better. We can drag those decks out. Deal more cards. As you see, they fall on top just like they did before, dealing out as many cards as I choose. And in case you're wondering, yes, I can have multiple decks on the desktop at the same time, or on the scene at the same time, and they all work. So I can deal one from here, one from here, one from here, and each card is independently managed, has access to its variables, and can be used in many different ways. I get my back from my deck, so I can see that each of the 6 dimension cards picked up their backs, or I can see the front. Hope you like my template. Let me know what you think. Have a great day.